This was me at 13 years old. I had asthma, allergies, and severe chronic issues. I had been told by doctors that I was going to be on medications for the rest of my life. But then, one day I decided I was going to do something wild. I was going to quit all of my medications, yes, all of them, and try to fix my issues with diet only. And it worked. I'm now 100% disease and medication free and in the best shape of my life. And I have used what I have learned on my journey to help hundreds of people worldwide to do the same thing. I spent thousands of hours and countless amounts of money on research and experimentation on my own diet journey. And that's why in this video I'll give you everything I learned after spending the past decade trying to heal myself with diet. So before we get into the video itself, I just wanted to quickly tell you about my Spring 2025 health offer. This is a special offer that I'm currently running, and I have 20 spots available at a very cheap price. Over half of them have already been claimed. So if you want to join my Spring 2025 health reset at a greatly discounted price, you can click the link below in the comments or in the description, and you can join before the 20 spots are filled up. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So let's start with stage 1 of my diet journey. So I started out with the bodybuilder diet. This is something that a lot of guys in their late teens or early 20s start out with. And this was basically lean chicken meat. It was white rice, it was broccoli, you know, those classic bodybuilder meals. And then it was a lot of protein through like protein drinks and protein bars and whatnot. And as you can see in this picture, it definitely helped me build muscle, but there were other issues with this diet that wasn't really helping me with my symptoms. So I still had asthma, I actually had a lot of bloating in my gut, and I had all these other issues still persistent within me. But I did look better, as you can see, so this is what the bodybuilder diet can definitely do. So let's get into some of the pros and the cons of the bodybuilder diet. Okay, so the first pro of the bodybuilder diet is obviously that you're cutting out a lot of junk. So if you're only eating chicken and rice and broccoli and other lean meats and vegetables, then you're definitely cutting out like fast food and other just terrible options. So that's obviously a pro of the diet. You are on a much cleaner diet basically. The second pro of the bodybuilder diet is that you're getting high amounts of animal protein and certain nutrients. For example, B vitamins, which are very present in, for example, lean red meat and eggs and so on. You're getting a lot of those water-soluble vitamins, and you're getting a lot of obviously bioavailable animal protein. You're definitely hitting your protein goals that you require as a human being. But there are also a lot of cons on this diet, so let's look into those now. So first of all, on the bodybuilder diet, you have a severe lack of fat. And fat is so important, actually especially for someone who's trying to build muscle, because our bodies need a certain amount of saturated fat in it to be able to produce the positive sex hormones that make muscle building easy. So that would be testosterone, obviously is the main one for guys. If you are lacking in fat, you will actually not be producing enough testosterone for your body to be healthy and to look lean and look good basically. You're basically getting all those negative benefits that come from low testosterone if you're just depriving yourself of this. And many bodybuilders do this. They do build muscle, but they're also severely damaging their testosterone levels, especially over the long term, by not eating enough fat. Because they're kind of afraid of fat in a way, because they think fat will hoard as fat on their body, which is not really how it works. Obviously, fat has a lot of calories, so if you eat a lot of it, you will put on weight. But you do need saturated fats to have proper hormonal function. And this is really the big issue with the bodybuilder diet, because you're only eating lean chicken, lean meats, you're eating carbs and you're eating vegetables, and then you're getting the protein shakes and the other stuff that people eat on this diet. It could be like egg whites, they're not eating the egg yolks where the fat is. So you're just depriving your body of a lot of fat, and this will manifest as hormonal issues, as energy imbalances. So a lot of people on the bodybuilder diet will actually have low energy. And I realize that seems kind of weird, but it's because they're lacking in fat. So they have to take pre-workouts, they have to drink a lot of caffeine before working out, because they're lacking the natural support that their hormones need and that their testosterone needs from the saturated fats. So this is a big con of the bodybuilder diet. The next con of the bodybuilder diet is there's no focus on quality. So you'll see these bodybuilders eat huge amounts of chicken and beef and also other foods like plant foods, rice and vegetables, but they don't care about the quality at all. But since they're eating these foods in such high quantities, they should really be caring about the quality, because if you eat a large amount of conventional chicken, for example, that is non-organic, you're going to be getting large amounts of antibiotics and other antibiotic-like substances into your gut, which will disrupt it and make you gather less protein and nutrients from your food. So you're actually putting your health at great risk by eating large amounts of animal products that are basically very low quality, because they have so many xenoestrogens and microplastics and heavy metals within them. It will disrupt your biomes and especially your microbiome to be able to synthesize less nutrition of the food you're eating. So you're not going to be seeing the results you're looking after, especially not in terms of your health if you're trying to heal chronic conditions. So this is a big con on the bodybuilder diet. You really need to be focusing more on quality. And if you were to do that on the bodybuilder diet, it would definitely help out greatly, but you would still be lacking the fat, as we talked about before. Now, the next con on the bodybuilder diet is what we just touched on previously, is that this diet has a tendency to nuke the gut microbiome. Because keep in mind, this is not really a diet that is made to optimize your health at all. It is really only made for one thing, and that's building muscle. So it has nothing to say in terms of what your gut needs and the fermented foods and the vitamin K2 that we need from, for example, raw milk, kefir, and the other foods that I constantly talk about on this channel. That is not a priority at all. Instead, you are filling your gut with a lot of artificial sweeteners, for example, from the protein shakes and the protein bars. This is actually something I did a lot when I was on the bodybuilder diet, because I was working at a gym, so I had free access to all the protein bars and processed protein shakes and whatnot. So I was drinking and eating those, thinking I was doing something good for my health because, protein is good and all of that. But I actually noticed I got very bloated whenever I ate that, and I felt like I just couldn't digest anything. And that's because the artificial sweeteners that they put in these products to get the calories down are actually very, very disruptive to your gut. So they have all of these different chemicals in there, the sucralose, the aspartame. All of these different chemicals are very, very toxic to your gut. They will kill your microbes, they will kill your enzymes, they will make you unable to extract the food you're eating, basically. And that's why I had so much bloating when I was on the bodybuilder diet, because I was just eating these protein products way too much. So that's how the bodybuilder diet really nukes your gut microbiome. Then we have the last con of the bodybuilder diet, which is obviously a lack of nutrients. So again, you're only really thinking about building muscle on the bodybuilder diet, and that's mostly about protein. So that's the only nutrient that bodybuilders really care about. And then they talk about micronutrients sometimes, and just they have like the idea that they can just eat a bit of broccoli or a bit of salad and then they will get their nutrients. But obviously that's not how it works. We need the right foods, we need the right microbes, the probiotics in our gut to be able to extract the nutrients from our food. And that's just not happening on the bodybuilder diet. So that's why if you would be on this diet for a long time, you would definitely become malnourished in the long run. And that's a major issue with the bodybuilder diet. You're just not getting any nutrients. You're only really building muscle. And that's what I saw in my own journey, obviously. I got the muscle, I looked better, but I wasn't feeling better. So we are trying to heal issues here. So we do want to feel better. We want to have higher energy. We want to thrive all day. We want to have no bloating. We want to have no brain fog. And this is just not happening on the bodybuilder diet because it's only concerned about building muscle. Okay, then we have stage 2 on my diet journey. And this was the plant-based diet. So after having been on the bodybuilder diet for a while, I started noticing that I wasn't really feeling better. I got the muscles that I wanted, but I also wanted to heal my issues, and I was really tired of the bloating specifically. So I was trying to heal that, and I was told by a lot of people that I needed to go plant-based because then I would be feeding my gut all it needed. But I did see a wide array of issues being on the plant-based diet. So let's get into those now. So first of all, we have the pros of the plant-based diet. There's really only one pro to a plant-based diet in my perspective, and that is again that you're cutting out the junk. So if you're eating a plant-based diet, you are probably making salads yourself, you're probably eating like foods that have less toxins and are less processed. Ideally, that's what you would be doing, and that would obviously be a pro of the diet. But let's get into the cons, which there are a lot of those. First of all, this diet is severely malnourishing. So you're not getting any animal nutrition on this diet, and there are all these different nutrients and amino acids that we just can't get from plant foods like carnitine, CoQ10, B vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin D. There's just a severely malnourishing effect to a plant-based diet in the long run. And luckily I wasn't on a plant-based diet for too long, so I didn't really see anything like this in myself. But this is something that you see in a lot of people nowadays who are on a plant-based diet long term. They will run into malnourishing problems. Even if studies and papers are telling them that they're getting all the nutrients they need and they're getting all these plant foods that have all these different nutrients and whatnot, it's just not turning into nutrition in their body. and that's why they will very often have low energy in the long run and run into all these other malnourishing issues, which can be pretty much endless. And then another con is that it's very, very gut disruptive. So this was a deal breaker for me, obviously, because I was trying to heal my gut with this diet. That was what I had been told by people that I trusted at the time. Just eat some more raw salads and stuff, and that would help your gut. But it did the exact opposite. I was more bloated, I was more fatigued, I was more drained. It was not helping. And that's because when you're eating a lot of raw vegetables, as you would on a plant-based diet, you're also filling your gut with a lot of anti-nutrients, which are present in these vegetables. This could be like oxalates, phytic acid, and all these other anti-nutrients that basically just nuke your gut and makes it very, very hard for your gut to digest and absorb other foods. And it has to spend a lot of energy also on bypassing these anti-nutrients. And that's what creates the bloating and the drained energy as well. So this is what I greatly experienced on the plant-based diet. This is what a lot of people will see on a plant-based diet. So that's definitely a big con as well. Okay, so another con of the plant-based diet is that it's very bad for your hormones. So we talked about this earlier with the bodybuilder diet and the severe lack of fat and how that really impacts the testosterone in men, the estrogen in women, and your hormones in general. But on a plant-based diet, you're not getting any saturated fat at all, not even the little amount that you would get on a bodybuilder diet. So this is even worse for your hormones, especially long-term. And a lot of people think they can get adequate amounts of fat from plant-based options. And yes, there are some good options there, like coconut oil would be one of those where you could get at least a little bit of saturated fat to support your hormones. But most people are not eating enough of that, and really it's not a sustainable way either to get your saturated fats. So it's just a very, very bad diet in general for your hormones, and it will make you spiral into all these hormonal imbalance symptoms, and you will have lower energy, and you will have sometimes more fat storage, sometimes too little fat storage. Your hormones will basically be flipping back and forth from really missing the saturated fats that needs to keep the hormones healthy. So that's a big con of the plant-based diet again. And then another con is that it's very, very inflammatory. And this is again related to the fat aspect that I just talked about. So because people are not using the saturated fats, they instead opt for the plant-based fats, which are polyunsaturated fats. And these are very, very often extremely inflammatory to the body. So that just means that these people eating a lot of like vegan products or cooking their food in plant oils, they're just introducing a lot of oxidative stress into their body. And that's why this diet can be very inflammatory. And I did also have a lot of body pain when I was on this diet because I was basically consuming a lot of seed oils and stuff that you need to on a plant-based diet. It's just the only option you have for fat in a lot of cases, at least for me it was. So that's why I started experiencing all these different inflammatory symptoms, and I had pain in my joints when I was working out. So yeah, overall it was a terrible experience for me with the plant-based diet. For some people it can be better, and you can do certain things that can make it much better than what I did for sure. But overall it's not a diet I would recommend for anyone, except for maybe a very short period like a week or a month. But yeah, not a good diet. So let's move on to the next one. And this was the carnivore diet. So I basically went to the complete other direction from the plant-based diet to the carnivore diet. And I just discovered this on like forums online that people were eating only meat, and it was very intriguing to me, and they were talking about all of these different benefits. So I wanted to try it out, and I did try it out. And here is what I found to be the pros and the cons of the carnivore diet. So first of all, one of the pros is that it has a high amount of nutrition. You're really getting a lot of bioavailable nutrition when you're on the carnivore diet due to the sheer amount of meat and animal products that you're eating. So for example, a steak, it has a lot of different amino acids. It has all the amino acids actually that your body needs. It has all the complexes of B vitamins. If there's fat on that, you're also getting fat soluble vitamins. So animal foods in general, especially meat, is just very, very nutrient dense. So obviously when you're on a diet that consists of just meat and dairy, you're getting a lot of nutrition. So that's definitely a positive aspect of the carnivore diet. Also, another pro of the carnivore diet is that it's very anti-inflammatory because you're not consuming any of the foods that are normally inflammatory to a lot of people's bodies. This could be gluten from bread and wheat. This could be seed oils from plant fats. This could be anti-nutrients from vegetables and so on. So you're cutting all of that out, and that's why it can have these profound effects on people who are suffering from inflammation, because it's a very anti-inflammatory diet. And then the last pro is that it's great for short-term benefits. So I just talked about the anti-inflammatory benefits that you get out from it. When you basically cut everything out, that were contributing to issues in your body, obviously you're going to see a lot of benefits in that regard. So that is why a lot of people, they go on the carnivore diet and they get these immediate benefits, and it's just very good for that. It's a very good reset for your body, and that's a pro of the carnivore diet as well. Okay, so let's get into some of the cons of the carnivore diet. So there is definitely a huge lack of balance on this diet. Obviously, you're just eating meat, you're just eating dairy products. There are certain things that you are definitely missing here that will give you negative effects in the long term, and this is what I noticed as well when I was on the diet, and which a lot of people are noticing on this diet. So as I talked about before in the pros section, there are definitely all these quick wins and benefits that you get. But when you get longer into the diet, you also start noticing that there is a lot of things that you are lacking. For example, soluble fiber to push through the meat and the dairy you're eating. Because you have no fiber on the carnivore diet, you're not eating any vegetables at all, not any fruits, not any grains at all. There is nothing to push all of that meat and animal products through your intestines. So very often it will sit, and it will basically sit and rot in your small intestines and just release way too many compounds and actually way too many nutrients sometimes. I know that's like a weird term, but you can actually get overloaded by nutrients when meat and stuff is sitting in your intestine for too long, which is not good. And this is something that happens a lot on the carnivore diet. And this is something I noticed a lot. Like when I was on the diet, I started getting these very weirdly specific cravings. So I was actually craving oats. Like I've never craved anything so much before, and so specifically than oats. It wasn't anything else I needed, because it was only the oats that I wanted to stuff myself with, basically. And when I look back on it, it's basically because I was missing that soluble fiber to push through, and my body was just screaming for the oats to be able to push that through my gut, because I was actually starting to get bloating, and I think I just had a buildup of just way too much meat in my intestines. And luckily I swayed away from the diet a little bit, and I ate the oats, and I felt so much better. Like just a small amount of oats really helped me out. So this is definitely some of the issues that you run into on the carnivore diet. It just lacks balance, and also it has this idea that carbohydrates are evil and should be avoided. I don't agree with that. Once I actually healed my gut and incorporated carbohydrates in the right way, I felt so much better, so much higher energy than I did when I was on the carnivore diet. So carbs can actually be very, very beneficial to our body. We just need to have our gut healed and our gut optimized so we can utilize them properly. Then we have the next con of the carnivore diet, which is cortisol spikes. This is something that a lot of people, I would say anyone, would notice on a long-term carnivore diet. Because you're not eating any carbohydrates at all on the carnivore diet, your body goes into something called gluconeogenesis, where it basically taps into fat and protein in your body to make carbohydrates for your brain and other parts of your body. And this can be very stressful and produce a lot of actually adrenaline and cortisol in your body. And this can manifest as many different issues, such as sleep issues, energy issues, and hormonal damage. And this is just something that a lot of people don't really talk about with the carnivore diet, is that you're getting these very aggressive cortisol spikes by being on such a reductive diet that just doesn't have any carbohydrate sources at all. So that's definitely a major con of it, and that's something that I experienced as well when I was on the diet. And then another con is that it's not good for the gut microbiome. This is again because you're overdoing the meat. You're just putting way too much meat into your gut, and you're not adding those soluble fiber options to push it through and make everything absorb the right way. So you can have intestinal overgrowth of certain bacteria when you're on the carnivore diet for a long time because of that. And also you're not feeding your gut the carbohydrates and the soluble fiber that it needs to stay active and thriving, because our gut definitely has certain requirements of other foods in order to produce the right colonies of bacteria and enzymes, and that's just not happening on a carnivore diet, and that's just another big con of it. And then another con, as I put here, is the digestive problems, and this we've already talked about, but I just wanted to emphasize this further, that you are really going to see a lot of digestive problems because of the factor of no fiber in your diet at all. You're just going to have a buildup of meat in your gut, way too much, and a lot of people will experience that as digestive discomfort and not being able to go to the bathroom and just having constipation and all of this. Very common on the carnivore diet. So that's definitely a major con of it, and that's why I would never stay on a carnivore diet in the long term. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, we have sleep issues, and this is related to the cortisol spikes that we talked about earlier, because when your cortisol spikes and you get that adrenaline rush from the gluconeogenesis happening in your body due to a restriction of carbs, then that very often manifests as you not being able to sleep, because your body is basically going into a stress mode. It is stressful for the body to perform this gluconeogenesis, and from an ancient perspective, the body is thinking that there is some kind of external threat making you go through this gluconeogenesis and these cortisol spikes, and therefore it will not want to sleep. And that's where a lot of people will run into sleep issues on the carnivore diet. Again, a very, very common symptom of the carnivore diet, and I also did notice this a little bit when I was on the carnivore diet. Okay, and then we're getting to stage 4 on my diet journey, and this was the Primal diet. Very interesting diet that piqued my interest after the carnivore diet. If you don't know about the Primal diet, it's something that was popularized by this guru, I think you can call him, called Jonas Wonderplanets. And I got very interested in it because it was basically all about eating raw animal foods like raw meat, raw liver, raw milk, and raw eggs. And there are other components to it as well, such as drinking vegetable juices like celery. And there's a lot of different things to this diet, so you can look into that yourself if you want to. But let's get into the pros and the cons of the Primal diet. So again, as with the carnivore diet, you're getting a high amount of nutrition on this diet because it's so rich in animal foods. Actually, you're probably getting way more nutrition on the Primal diet compared to the carnivore diet because you're eating raw foods, which are easier to digest for the body and which just is easier turned into nutrition by our body because it's obviously easier to digest. There's less work needed by your gut to go through it, and it's just synthesized with all the probiotics and enzymes attached to it. So you can extract a lot more nutrition when you eat stuff raw, and that's a really positive benefit of the Primal diet. Also, it's very high quality, so the diet does emphasize quality a lot. It does emphasize going for organic, pasture-raised stuff because, first of all, it has much more nutrition, but it also has much less toxins in there that degrade your gut microbiome and your health in general. So that's definitely a very positive side to the diet as well. And then the diet is very anti-inflammatory. Again, similar to the carnivore diet, they are very similar diets, but obviously the Primal diet is based on raw foods. That's really the big differentiator, and it also has these other protocols to it. But it's very anti-inflammatory because you're cutting out all of these different plant foods that can contribute to a lot of inflammation in a lot of people when they eat them incorrectly, basically. So that's another pro of the Primal diet. Now let's get into the cons of the Primal diet. First, we have gut issues. Again, this is even more profound on the Primal diet than on the carnivore diet because the Primal diet really emphasizes fat much more than the carnivore diet does. And when you have a buildup of raw fat in your diet, those are going to be even more hard for your gut to move through, and to get it to move through the intestines, it's going to be very hard with that concentrated amount of fat in there. At least when it's more lean meat and stuff, it's able to break down easier in the intestines and move through a little easier. But fat is very stationary and it will become stuck. And again, that can manifest itself as gut or digestive issues, which is what a lot of people on the Primal diet experience, because they think fibers are evil, all fibers, and because they are also, again, as with the carnivore diet, kind of scared of the carbohydrate aspects, which are the starches that can actually help our gut motility. So that's definitely a big con of this diet. Also, it is highly, highly imbalanced. So as I said earlier in this video, there is such a thing as too much nutrition. And this is something that greatly happens on the Primal diet because, as I said, the meat and the fat and all the nutritious foods are becoming stuck in your small intestines, and you are over-absorbing certain nutrients. And when you over-absorb nutrients, you get nutrient imbalances because all of them are connected, and that can manifest as just a wide array of different issues in your body. And this is what I've seen a lot of people who are on a Primal diet on the long term. Another con of it is weight gain because you're eating so high amounts of densely nutritious, high energy foods. A lot of people will get weight gain. I've been around a lot of people who have been on this diet, and pretty much all of them have become fat in the end. It's just often a result of the diet. And people on the Primal diet, they have a way of saying that this is just actually healthy. It's healthy fat, and it's healthy to be a little overweight. Personally, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's how we are supposed to live and look. So to me, it's not really true that you can be overweight and still be healthy, even when you're on the Primal diet. I would say it's better than being overweight from processed junk and all of that, definitely. And there are definitely interesting perspectives on how you can actually use body fat to detox, and how when you're on the Primal diet, you can have benefits by the increased weight gain by the body being able to dump toxins through the fat, and then you burning off that fat and in turn burning off the toxins. I do believe in some of those mechanisms, but I do not believe that being overweight for a significant amount of time is going to be helpful for anyone's health. So this is a big con of the Primal diet. And then the last one is probably a bit of a controversial one. This is parasites. And obviously you're eating raw meat and you're eating all this raw stuff on the Primal diet. And we've been told that those things are going to give us bad bacteria and parasites and whatnot. And a lot of that I don't agree with, but I do still agree that there are certain foods where we need to cook it to get rid of certain problematic contents. For example, raw pork, raw chicken is something that people will literally eat on the Primal diet. And in a completely natural setting, I wouldn't have any issues with that. Like if you had butchered the chicken yourself, or if you have found a pig out in the forest that you have hunted, you could probably eat that raw, no issues. But today food is packaged, it is processed, and there are all these other things happening that takes it very far away from the natural setting, and then can sort of add these other problematic contents to it that can help harbor parasites inside of you when you eat it. So I wouldn't eat raw pork, I wouldn't eat raw chicken. I think that could definitely contribute to you having an increased amount of negative parasites and microorganisms in your body. That's how I would explain that shortly, but it's a big topic, so maybe we'll make a video on that one day. You can let me know in the comments if you would want me to talk more about that. So those were the 4 diets that I wanted to mention in this video that I encountered on my dieting journey, and I just thought they were the most interesting ones, but I did go through a lot of other stuff. I basically tried everything. So maybe you're asking yourself, okay, Jonas, so what diet do you eat nowadays, and what diet actually helped you beat all of these chronic issues fully and be 100% medication free and in the best shape of your life? So I would love to tell you that, but it's not really a specific diet, because what I found out from all of these different diets that I've talked about today is that you can actually include components from all of them to build your own specific perfect diet. And this is what I did, and it changes all the time. So we as humans are made to change our diet in a variety of ways, depending on the seasons, depending on the weather, depending on what we have access to, depending on the climate, our ancestry, our genetics. There are so many different components that we need to take into consideration. This is very, very important, and this is why, in my opinion, there is no diet out there that can help you. And that's what truly transformed my health once I finally realized that. I basically have to take all of the different components that I learned on these diets, such as the importance of raw foods on the Primal diet, the importance of animal nutrition from the Carnivore diet, the importance of carbohydrates and soluble fiber from the plant-based diets, and the importance of protein from the Bodybuilder diet, and all of these other diets I went on. I learned something from all of them, and I was able to put them in to my own specific individual diet that just works incredibly. And I would love to help you do the same. I would love to help you figure out your specific situation, what foods and what diet would work perfectly for you, and what different components you need to take into consideration. So if you want me to do that for you, definitely take a look at my Spring 2025 Health Reset Plan. This is something that I'm running momentarily this spring period, and already half of the spots have been filled up. So you can click the link in the description or in the comments to learn more about this plan, and you can see how I can help you find your own unique blueprint and your own diet. And I'll use all of what I've learned throughout this decade of helping myself and helping hundreds of different clients worldwide to find their own perfect blueprint, because health and diet is just a personalized aspect in 2025, and really it has always been for humans. So you need personalized help, and that's why I offer plans like this where I can actually help you out individually. So take a look at the link below in the comments or in the description. And other than that, stay healthy everyone, and stay energized.